Stay up late. 9, 10.
Never sleep again.
Ever since I was very, very young, I have been a huge fan of horror movies. One of the very first movies that I saw in the theater was Aliens. My dad took me. I looked it up. That movie came out in year of our Lord 1986. I was 5. And it was awesome. Though not as good as the original. That's not my opinion, that's just a fact. But today, I'm not here to talk about aliens. Instead, I'm here to talk about another one of my favorite 80s horror movie monsters. None other than the Nightmare Ninja himself, Freddy motherfucking Krueger. Or, to be more specific, Freddy Krueger's glove. When other kids wanted a bicycle, I wanted a Freddy Krueger glove. And not that plastic junk that they sold in the toy store. Oh no, I wanted a real Freddy Krueger glove. And today, I'm finally going to make that childhood dream come true. However, before you can just jump in and start making finger knives, there's 2 important questions that you need to answer. First, and probably the most important, is which version of the Freddy glove are you going to make? Because there's been a few different Freddy gloves that have been used throughout the years on all the different films. And secondly, are you going to get really crazy and shoot for replica levels of accuracy? Or are you just going to sort of do your own thing based off of whatever design you settle on? Personally, I'll be basing my glove off the original glove used in parts 1 and 2. This is of course objectively the best glove. Again, not my opinion, just a fact. And I am way too lazy to be going for screen perfect levels of accuracy, so I'm just going to be sort of doing my own thing, roughly based off the design of that original glove. Now, the original Freddy glove is primarily made from Type M copper tubing, so I figured that's probably a pretty good place to start. However, because I've never made a set of psychopathic finger knives before, after that, I'm honestly not sure how to go about this. So I start off just by splitting a few sections of pipe down the middle, and I figure that I'll just try and slowly start working them into shape one step at a time. A little bit of a pro tip here, by the way. If you've never worked with copper before, heating it up beforehand will actually help to anneal the material, and this makes it much more malleable and flexible, which makes it a lot easier to bend and shape and work with. So for step 1 here, I will be demonstrating the fact that I am absolutely not a blacksmith, as I just try and open up these pieces of copper tubing and then slowly hammer them into sort of a general U shape. Now, I am of course aware that there are some people who may be inclined to ask, why on earth would you ever need a Freddy Krueger glove? To those people, I would ask in return, what is your plan? If you were to find yourself locked in hand-to-hand combat with an angry grizzly bear or a hostile honey badger, what are you going to do? I, for one, will be ready. I'm also continuing to check against my reference photos as I slowly work these pieces into shape. This part here is what I'm currently working on, and it looks like I'm going in roughly the right general direction, so I feel good moving over to the Dremel to remove some of this material. And I think that's looking pretty good, so now I just need to do that 4 more times. Well. If I didn't know any better, I'd say that these are actually starting to take shape. So here's the general idea. These pieces will fit over the top of the finger, and I'm trying to shape them so that they can sweep back and fall onto the top of the hand. From there, they will of course be attached to this copper piece here, which will in turn be attached to the glove. Which means that next, I just need to start refining the shape of these pieces so that each one is a good fit for whatever finger it's made for. And at this point is where things get, I guess, not difficult, but definitely a little bit tedious. Refining these parts into sort of the perfect shape is really just a matter of a lot of time on the belt sander. Just taking things slow and going back and forth between the belt sander, trying it on, back to the belt sander, try it on, rinse, repeat until basically I have the perfect shape that I'm looking for. I feel like I'm getting somewhere now. This thing's actually starting to take shape. If you didn't know any better, you might think that I knew what I was doing. I went ahead and finished up all of the fingers, just shaped them on the belt sander. I hammered the ends flat. That's where they're gonna connect to the back piece here. And I also went ahead and did some shaping to the back piece, which means that I am now ready to move on to the fingertips. But before I start on the fingertips, I wanna go ahead and connect all of this stuff together. I just think that that's going to make it a bit easier to size the fingertips correctly and make sure that everything fits and moves freely when it's all finally assembled. Well, I guess it's time to talk about the tips. Just the tips. Shaping the fingertips, though, is, at least for the most part, kind of just a lot more of the same. So I won't waste a lot of your time going over the same stuff that I've already gone over when making the back pieces. With that said, though, the shape of the fingertips is definitely a bit more, I don't know, I guess nuanced. There's a bit more detail to it. For example, there's this nice sweeping set of curves that you see here. And because these need to fit with all of those pre-existing pieces that I've already made, I'm really forcing myself to take it nice and slow here. I'm taking off really little bits of material at a time and just doing a lot of back and forth test fitting to make sure that I end up with a piece that's actually going to work. There is, however, one other detail of the fingertips that I really wanted to try and capture, and that is the way that they sort of curl around the front of the fingers like you see here. I really liked the way that this looked, so I really wanted to try and recreate it, but I wasn't quite sure how to go about doing that. However, while I was digging around in my scrap pile, I found this old cast iron handle. I have no idea what this thing came from, but it's got this little ball on the end of the handle, and it looked like the ball was about the right size. So I stuck it in the vise and used that to hammer the ends of the fingertips over and around that ball. And Shazam! A little bit of movie magic, and we have fingertips. I think they came out pretty decent, if I do say so myself. I did have a little bit of trouble with this front section here, getting it peened over so that it would wrap around the front of the finger. I've just never really done this type of metal work before, so I wasn't really sure how to go about it, but I think I figured it out, and I think they came out pretty all right. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so the blades on the original Freddy Krueger glove were made from Case XX P210 tomato knives. And I think that it would be pretty awesome to use those same knives for my gloves. But I mean... Son of a... So instead, I'll be using some old saw blades. Fortunately, though, these are made from tool steel and they are roughly the right size and shape. So I think it should be pretty easy to convert these into some fairly decent finger knives. And that is all of the individual pieces of the glove complete, which means now all that's left is to start assembling all these pieces together into an actual glove, which is honestly where things start to get a little bit dicey for me. There is a lot of brazing that needs to be done to stick all of these parts together. And if you watched my fairly recent video on brazing, which, let's face it, we both know that you didn't because hardly anybody watched it, but if you had watched it, you would know that brazing is definitely not one of my strong suits. So I was kind of terrified that I was going to do something stupid and just ruin all of these parts that I had put all this work into. Fortunately for me, though, nothing catastrophic happened, and a sloppy brazing job is kind of part of the aesthetic of the original glove. So my poor skills actually ended up being a little bit of an asset here. Also, the further I went, the more pieces that I did, the better I got at it. And honestly, by the time I was finished brazing all these pieces together, I felt like I was getting pretty good at it. With all the brazing done, the rest of it is pretty much downhill from here. I just need to get all the pieces hole punched and riveted together. I guess I should probably mention that the rivets I'm using, they aren't technically the correct rivets. The rivets used in the original glove are those push rivets. I just have these screw together rivets, but I kind of like these because it leaves me the option to take the glove back apart if I ever need to. Also, this glove that I'm using, this is literally just a stray right-hand glove that I had with my stack of other gloves. The original glove used was a Wells Lamont 900, I believe. Again, just like the tomato knives, finding one of those gloves is very difficult and expensive, so I just used what I had. Now, I know that it could be argued that a fully functioning adult has no business being this excited over a Freddy Krueger glove. To that, I would say two things. One, I'm not a fully functioning adult. And two, I mean, come on. Would you look at this thing? Tell me that doesn't look absolutely fantastic. I love this glove.
I love lamp.
And I'm not kidding when I say that I have wanted a Freddy Krueger glove for pretty much as long as I can remember. At least as far back as the first time that I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street. And that was a long time ago. And today, I finally have one. And not only do I have my very own Freddy Krueger glove today, but I mean, come on, you gotta admit, I've got a pretty sweet Freddy Krueger glove. This thing came out absolutely fantastic. It came out a lot better than I was expecting, honestly. When I first started this project, I really didn't know how I was gonna go about doing it because it involves a lot of things that I'm either not very good at or have literally never done before. For instance, the brazing, I knew there was going to be a lot of brazing involved, and brazing is something that I'm not very good at. And shaping all of these pieces is just something that I've never really done. Most of the projects that I do in this shop are pretty straightforward machining projects. So all of my metal shaping is normally done with cutting tools on the milling machine or the lathe. So using a hammer and an anvil to kind of make, I guess, more organic shapes was something I just have never really done before. I didn't know how exactly to go about it or how it was going to go. But I got to admit, I am very, very pleased with the final results. If you've made it this far, thank you so very much. I do truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, the easiest way to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, maybe even share the video. I also have a Patreon. Link for that will be in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one very, very soon.